Hopefully, this live will stay solid for us. I don't know if we're being suppressed. SSI benefits set to explode. Social Security increase for 2023, 2024. I want to share with you guys the latest information, articles that have come out, and more articles, thankfully, are actually coming out on a regular basis about a new bipartisan bill that is designed with the goal to raise Social Security SSI savings caps and also to potentially increase the Social Security SSI benefits. So I want to provide you guys all the details about this proposed bill and also how this bill could significantly enhance the benefits for Social Security and SSI recipients. I really apologize for the earlier live a couple of minutes ago. We had some technical difficulties. Hopefully, you guys could hear me. I didn't even do a quick sound check. I don't know if you guys can even hear what I'm saying. I see my lips moving, but I don't know if you guys can hear me. If you can, show me some love in the comments and let me know if sound is good or if the sound is not okay. I see you're back. Sabrina Tolbert, thank you. Peachy Keen, 70 greetings. Sound is good. Karen Craig, thank you so much. Bella DeTore, thank you for confirming. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are freaking awesome. So anyway, so these Social Security SSI benefits could potentially significantly increase the benefits received by recipients. And as I previously mentioned on the channel, various bills addressing Social Security reform are actually emerging. Are they emerging because, the 2024 presidential election's coming up and now they're politically motivated to do something about Social Security, or at least act like they are? I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts. Social Security is clearly in need of some significant changes, and this year it appears to be shaping up to be the year of reform for Social Security. Deborah Edwards, thank you for confirming sound is good. Sheila Adams, Kathy E, I see you. Janet Evans with the coffee, thank you so much. So with Congress back in session after the August break, there is a little bit more traction, or I should say a lot more traction, with the increased coverage on Social Security related topics in different articles and videos. And so let's jump into some of those topics. And before I do, let's see if we can get a little bit more love in the chat, please. Looks like we got 189 people in here. We had up to 300 before, so unfortunately we lost some people. Maybe we can get that number back up. Drop me a quick like in the on the live so that we can get this live out to more people, so more people can hear about it. Because the more people who know about what's going on, the more politicians will feel the fire and the urgency behind the movement. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but Sherrod Brown and so basically Bill Cassidy and Sherrod Brown got together and they announced the first bipartisan bicameral push in like decades to reform supplemental security income, which is SSI, Social Security program, which has not been updated in nearly 40 years and currently punishes older and disabled Americans for saving for emergencies and their futures. It's like this program is put in to kind of like they only want to help those who are in desperate situations. So you have to have a significantly minimal amount in your savings bank account, and you can't have too many assets. They want to know where all your money's coming from, what bank you keep it in, how much is in each bank. Do you have multiple bank accounts? It's wild how they do this, and they punish those on Social Security for earning too much. It's like, do you want people to be in poverty, or do you want people to build wealth and to, maybe, not have to necessarily depend on subsidies from the government? Makes you wonder. So anyway, Social Security, the supplemental Social Security program, SSI, hasn't been updated in like 40 years. And it's currently punishing older Americans for having money in their bank accounts. Now, the seniors, or the senators' bipartisan SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act, would actually update SSI's asset limits for the first time since the 1980s in order to ensure that disabled and elderly Americans are able to prepare themselves for financial emergencies without putting the benefits that they rely on at risk. Now, in addition to what Sherrod Brown and Bill Cassidy are doing, the U.S. Representative Brian Higgins and Brian Fitzpatrick, they're also going to be introducing companion legislation in the House later on this month. Now, U.S. Senators Ron Wyden, as well as U.S. Senators Ron Wyden, as well as Susan Collins, Bob Cassidy, and James Langford are original Senate co-sponsors. Now, check this out. The current SSI program it's punishing the disabled as well as elderly Americans for working and saving for the future and even getting married, believe it or not. They're punishing you for getting married, which is wild. Now, right now, individuals receiving SSI benefits are limited to $2,000 in total assets. $2,000 in total assets. I mean, like, first of all, before we even go into other things, right? Now, for married couples, you can have a total amount of $3,000 in total assets, but it's just wild. It's wild. So, like, how much are you paying for rent? Like, it's recommended that you have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, right? So let's just say your average rent is $1,500 a month. It depends on where you live in the country, whether, if you're in California or New York or Texas or Alabama or South Carolina, your rent is going to be drastically different, right? But just imagine you're in, I don't know, let's just say a really inexpensive cost of living state like South Carolina or Alabama or something like that, right? So you live in one of those lower cost of living states. And let's just say hypothetically, your rent is like $1,000, right? So your rent is $1,000, water, gas, utilities, basic cell phone bill. We won't even say you even have cable or internet, right? You got to feed yourself, right? So food's probably going to be at least $300 a month for one person. And that's if you're like just really just skimping and trying to get by, right? So at a minimum, realistically, you need $1,500 to $2,000 at a bare minimum every single month just to survive. I didn't even mention like car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance if you have a home, HOA fees. The list goes on and on and on. So at a bare minimum, you need $2,000 a month. So if you were to have an emergency fund of, say, 3 to 6 months, that would be 2 times 3 or 2 times 6 in the case of 6 months, right? So let's just say you did a bare minimum 3 months emergency fund. That's $6,000 at a minimum that you need. The SSI program is limiting you to $2,000 in assets. And for married couples, it's $3,000. So they literally want to put people in a very destitute situation. Like financial advisors, personal finance advisors would never recommend having 1 month savings set aside, especially in this high inflation environment. Andrew Henderson says, what about $23 a month in SNAP benefits? That's a great point. And a lot of people got excited about the 2023 COLA increase for Social Security. But they were later surprised that SNAP and EBT benefits were drastically reduced, if not completely eliminated, because of exceeding certain income limitations. So, yeah, kind of wild. Blue Roses Forever, she says she can spend $5 a day on food. That's amazing. So, out of curiosity, if you're spending $5 a day on food, what kind of food are you buying? Like, that just seems like I don't even understand how you get by on that. So the average current monthly benefit is $585 for individuals. For approximately 60% of recipients, SSI is their only source of income. The Savings Penalty Elimination Act would raise those caps, which have not been changed since 1984, to $10,000 for individuals and $20,000 for married couples, and index them to inflation moving forward. So, okay. So now there's a few arguments here. And let's see, so Amanda Smith says we pay $600 a month for family of 4 for food. Yeah, it's real. Ramen, I guess. Wendy A says ramen, I guess, but even coffee, cream, that I get is $6.88. Wow. So SSI's, according to Sherrod Brown, SSI's arbitrary and outdated rules make no sense. The government shouldn't punish seniors and Ohioans with disabilities who do the right thing and save money. Exactly. Exactly. Why would you punish people for saving money? And 2,000, 4,000, even $10,000 is not even that much money nowadays, especially with as high as inflation is. So Sherrod Brown goes on to say that it's long past time that we end these out-of-date government restrictions and allow Americans on SSI to save for emergencies and for their futures without putting the benefits that they rely on to live at risk. And there was the other thing. I came across this article. I don't know if it was BlackRock or was it Blackstone or Vanguard. One of these companies. Essentially, there was this article that came out, and it was talking about how many people who ended up paying off their homes, which happened to be mobile homes, but unfortunately, they happened to have these homes on land that they didn't own. And apparently the park ended up getting purchased by some other investor. And the new investors decided to raise the rents of all the people who had been living in these on this land for, 10, 15, 20 years. And all of a sudden the cost that they were having to pay in order to rent that lot went up drastically. And it's really kind of forced people to either have to move, which most people can't afford to do who happen to live there, or you're forced to pay the higher rent amount. Now, I don't know how much it costs to actually move one of those homes, but I would imagine it's quite expensive. So Noah says Gavin Newsom. Wait. Noah said Gavin Newsom. I'm even afraid to read these comments because I don't want to ruin the live session that we have. We've been stable for 12 minutes. Gavin Newsom 2024 doing for America what he's done for California. Oh man, that sounds kind of scary to me. I don't know how y'all feel on that. Jerry Middleton says my wife and I are being punished for being married, and they take half of our checks from us. I think they need to do something about that. I think so too. I wouldn't feel okay with, I was going to say I wouldn't feel okay with half my check being taken away, but half my check is taken away. In fact, more than half my check is taken away, especially when you think about the fact that look at it like this. This is a really interesting situation that we have. The system's broken. It's rigged. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, right? I don't know how many hours a week you work. I don't know how long it takes for you to drive or commute to work, right? But you spend 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, depends on what line of work you do. If you work overtime, depends on your length of your commute, but ultimately you're going to pay taxes on that check, right? So those taxes go to federal, unless you live in the state of Florida, or I think Texas doesn't have a state income tax, but so you pay federal tax, you pay state tax, you pay Social Security tax, Medicare tax, FICA, and some other miscellaneous taxes. So after all those fees are taken out, right? First of all, that Social Security tax is supposed to go into an account that ultimately pays you in the future, but that's a whole nother story. So you pay all these taxes, then you get to buy food and whatnot at the grocery stores, then you get to pay tax again. So then you go and you say to yourself, hey, I've been renting for, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Hey, I want to go buy a house. All right, well, you can go ahead and buy a house. But when you close, you have to pay all of these closing fees and expenses, right? But among those closing fees and expenses are property taxes that you need to pay in advance so that you can buy this house, right? So you've already paid taxes on your paycheck. You pay taxes, in the grocery store. You pay tax on the gas you bought. The gas tax is built into the gas price that you pay per gallon, right? I don't know if you guys know that, but the price you see at the gas station has the gas tax built in. So gas prices would be significantly lower. And in fact, you guys remember probably last year where many states actually reduced the amount of tax that they were going to charge people for gas so that they could theoretically lower the price of gas when we were dealing with that high gas situation. So anyway, so you pay tax out of your check, tax for gas, tax for food. You buy a house, you pay tax just to buy the house because you're paying the property taxes to get caught up to date. Then every year thereafter, even if your house is paid off, Even if your house is paid off and you got no mortgage payment, you're still paying property taxes every single year for land you've already bought, for a house you've already bought. So the taxes just don't end. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Then you get your Social Security check that was all you get your Social Security check, which was a tax out of your original paycheck. Maybe you're a business owner, maybe it came out of your business or whatnot. Whatever the case is, however you earn your income, whether it's a side hustle, maybe you're 1099, maybe you're a W-2 employee, or whatever the case is, they taxed you Social Security tax. And so when you finally get your Social Security checks, your Social Security check, whether it's SSI, SSDI, or regular standard Social Security, whatever your benefits look like, that check ends up getting taxed again. It's like, wait, you taxed me when I was earning, then you cut me a check after I reach full retirement age, and you're gonna tax that again? Like, I remember back in school, we talked about double taxation and how we shouldn't have taxation without representation. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys remember that. And what's really unfortunate is how we're, in many cases, getting double, triple, and quadruple taxed without representation. I mean, like, there's a lot of policies going on right now that a lot of people completely disagree with. But if you look at the general consensus of the population, most people are a little bit dissatisfied with how the government's spending our taxpayer dollars. So where's the representation? Anyway, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but millions of Americans rely on Supplemental Security Income SSI program to assist with their basic living needs, according to Congressman Fitzpatrick. Quote, the savings amount allowed for these individuals has not been updated in almost 40 years and is currently preventing individuals with disabilities from being financially independent. I am proud to join this bipartisan, bicameral effort to support our seniors with disabilities for more effectively meeting their needs. How many would like to be financially independent? So that's a serious question. Just comment down below. If you would like to be financially independent, just type in FI in the comments. And like, I wonder what most people think of when they think of financial independence. Is it having a paid off house? Is it having a certain amount of money in the bank? Is it like, what does financially independent mean to you? Is it, just never having to worry about what the total is when you're ringing up the grocery stores and the grocery cart, and you're making sure you got enough? Like, is financial independence not having to worry about what that total comes up to? Let me know what that means to you. Wow. So Blue Roses Forever, she says, my house is paid off and my car is paid off. I've been disabled 30 years and I can still barely live on what I have. That's unbelievable. Most people don't have a paid off house or a paid off car. She has both and she's still struggling to get by. That's unbelievable. Awakened and Aware says, being stable with whatever you have. I feel you. Self-sufficient from Sabrina Tolbert. Karen Jones says that she says financially independent. Karen from Detroit, am I having emergency money built up? So Blue Rosa says having enough. Amanda Smith says, I paid my mortgage off, but the property taxes keep me trapped. I paid my Tundra and house off. Tundra. I think the Tundra, that's the Toyota Tundra, I think, pickup truck. That truck will never die. Toyotas just run forever. But it's wild that you brought up property taxes going up, or property taxes keeping you trapped, Amanda, because I've seen my property taxes go up 3 times in the last 2 years. I don't know how many others are experiencing that too, but property taxes are going up tremendously. And so it's like you paid off your house. Not only do you have taxes every year, property tax every year, but then they continue to go up because your assessed value on your investment, also known, AKA your, primary residence, wherever you happen to live, the value of that has gone up. So of course the state or the county needs to get their tax revenue and raise those taxes as well. They reassess the value of your house and it's like, oh, well, your house went up $200,000. So we're going to have to raise your property taxes. And of course, the cycle continues because the property went up in value. So anyone who happens to be renting makes it that much harder to become a homeowner because the values of the assets went up again. So it's like if you own the asset, you're kind of better off versus if you just rent. And the question is, do you rent or do you buy? Are you better off renting or you're better off buying? Well, the thing is if you rent, let's look at it the first way. If you invested in real estate, you bought a house, maybe got a 3% interest rate mortgage. I don't know what your mortgage interest rate is, but we thankfully ended up getting mortgage interest rates under 3%, fixed rate, 30-year fixed rate mortgages. So a lot of Americans are in a situation where their mortgage payment's less than 5%. I don't know what you guys' mortgage payments are for those of you guys who have a mortgage payment. But so imagine you got a good interest rate, but your property taxes go up. So, and here's the interesting thing, right? So when you apply for a mortgage, they base your eligibility on your current income. Like they look at your debt to income ratio. They look at any other investments and assets that you have, your total amount of debts, and then they calculate how much they think that you can afford on a monthly basis from a mortgage payment standpoint, right? So then they calculate, well, if you borrow, say, $300,000 and you put 10%, 20% down, whatever the case is, right? 20% down on 300,000, that's 60 grand down, right? So you put 60 grand down, you borrow 240, and they say, okay, your mortgage payment is property taxes, insurance, is I don't know, $1,500 a month, $1,600 a month. That sounds about right, I guess. Yeah. So let's just say it's $1,600 a month. I don't have a calculator. I'm just hypothetically spitballing here, right? So they approve you for this mortgage at $1,600 a month. But what happens when your property taxes go up and your property taxes are tied to your mortgage payment, right? So year one, your mortgage payment is $1,600. You think you're straight. But yeah, right. The county says, hey, your property went up in value. So we're going to reassess your property. Yeah, now your property taxes go up, I don't know, $1,200. So they go up $1,200. Now your monthly mortgage payment goes up $100 a month. But your mortgage payment, when you originally got approved, was for $1,600. Now it's $1,700. Why? Because the escrow company is saying that your escrow is short because the property taxes went up. And now they will forever be this much higher going forward. What happens on year two if the property goes up again? Is your mortgage payment $1,800 now? $1,850, $1,900? So how much higher does the mortgage payment go because of your property taxes? Now, if you're like me, you got hit twice. Property taxes went up, but so did the homeowners insurance. The property insurance went up too. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a lot of homeowners insurance companies or insurance companies in different states, California, Florida. Some of these companies are just completely pulling out of the state, or they're not renewing their policies, or they're not willing to write new policies, whatever the case is. But so imagine your property tax goes up $100 a month. And then imagine when it comes time for the property to be renewed, if you're lucky, the insurance company renews you. And if they renew you, they're going to likely look at what the county did, and they're going to say, hey, this property went up. So the property was $300,000 last year, but this year it's worth $340,000. So there was an appreciation of $40,000 on this property. So from an investment standpoint, the asset increased in value, but the insurance company is going to look at it like, well, if we have to rebuild this house because of fire, maybe a wildfire takes down your house or something like that. You can't imagine that happening, right? Or a flood or a hurricane or any other natural disaster or whatever the case might be, right? The insurance company is going to say, hey, we were previously on the hook for replacing a $300,000 house, but today, 1 year later, it's worth $340,000. So we need to raise your insurance premium to make up for the fact that we have to take on this risk of possibly having to replace your house in the event of a catastrophe. So now not only did your property taxes go up, but so did your insurance on that house. So it wasn't just $100 per month increase on your mortgage payment. It's more like, maybe your insurance goes up $50. So now you go from year one, you had a mortgage payment of $1,650 or $1,600. Year two, your mortgage payment is now $1,750. Year three, what happens? Is it $1,900? And then how much is your income increasing? Because if your income isn't increasing at the rate of your expenses or greater, you never get ahead, number one. Or number two, even worse, you fall further and further behind. So imagine your mortgage payment goes up $150 a month, but your income only goes up $50 a month. You're $100 poorer every single month if that pattern continues. So Rio says my dog has to get a job. Oh my God. I'm done. I'm done. But I think you guys see where I'm going with this, right? So now here's the thing. If you're on a fixed income, like Social Security, like SSI, like SSDI, like imagine you're a regular W-2 employee who's on a salary and you can't work overtime or they don't pay you for overtime. If a fixed income is a fixed income, regardless of what that source is. So if your expenses keep increasing, but your income stays the same, or just doesn't increase at the same rate, this is a systemic problem, and it will eventually catch up to you. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the content, please do your boy a favor, drop a quick like in the videos, drop a like in the comments. I really appreciate the conversations with you guys, and it's a good time for me to actually get caught up with you because I don't always have the opportunity to do these lives. Margaret Lantham says, I'm on SSI, and after rent, I have only $100 to live on for a month here in Las Vegas, Nevada. They raised my rent 4 times. Las Vegas, Nevada is just like California now. It is wild because I think Las Vegas isn't Margaret. Let me know in the comments. Is Las Vegas one of those? Is Nevada one of those states that doesn't have the state income tax like Florida? Because Florida doesn't have state income tax. But I know a lot of people. I don't know how many of you guys watch Graham Stephan, amazing YouTuber. Graham Stephan and several other YouTubers moved from California to Nevada, and one of the reasons why is because the amount of gouging the state of California was doing from a tax standpoint, and don't even get me from a crime standpoint, from certain cities in the state of California, like San Francisco and some of these beautiful cities that I've visited once or twice, and I haven't been out there myself, so I don't know what it's really like, because it's always one way on TV and another way in person, but I really pray it's not as bad as it appears to be from the outside, because I don't live there. So I don't really know. Maybe there's somebody in the audience right now that's from California, has been to California recently. Maybe you can speak to how is it in California right now. But it's like geographically and from a geography standpoint, California is an amazing place. I mean, where else can you go? Think about this, guys. Where else can you go in one state and you can have beach weather? You can have, and in the same day, you can have beach weather, or you can go skiing off, some of the mountains up in Northern California in the same day. You can hang out at the beach, or you can drive like 6 hours, 7 hours north and go skiing. You have amazing views of the Pacific Ocean. You have so much natural landscaping. Like, look at the not landscaping. There's so much natural beauty to the state of California. Look at some of the national parks, for example, Yellowstone Park. Is it Yellowstone or Yosemite? I always get those two mixed up. But one of those two parks we went to, I think it was Yosemite Park. San Francisco? Near San Francisco, right? Beautiful parks. And it's like, so California is an amazing place. Rio says, I'm in California. It's getting hard out here. But I love my state. And I don't blame you. Amanda Smith confirmed it's Yosemite. Thank you. So these are some amazing places. And so California is beautiful, but the direction that it seems to be heading is very, very concerning and alarming. And so anyway, a lot of YouTubers said, hey, they're paying 50, 60% of their income in taxes between federal tax, Social Security tax, Medicare, California state tax, California property taxes, and of course the California sales taxes. It's just unreal. It's like, what are you left with? So anyway, that's why I think a lot of people have decided to move out of California and they have chosen Nevada as their destination because, hey, there's a lot going on in Nevada right now, Las Vegas, some beautiful real estate out there, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. Hopefully, California can get its act together and restore its former glory. But didn't mean to go off on that tangent. So anyway, wanted to talk to you guys about this proposal for $2,400 extra in checks, expanded and reintroduced in Congress. Your boy, Senator Bernie Sanders, he formally reintroduced the Social Security Expansion Act to Congress. And this time, he had a lot more support from fellow lawmakers also pushing the initiative. So it looks like the Social Security Expansion Act was originally introduced on June 9th by Bernie Sanders and U.S. Representative Peter DeFazio. And under the terms of the bill, anybody who is a Social Security recipient or who will turn 62 years old in 2023 will receive an extra $200 in each monthly check, meaning Social Security recipients could get an extra $2,400 a year in benefits if the bill wins the approval. Something that I'm pretty sure a lot of seniors would be happy about. John Huck, he says, try living in Florida by the beach. So, John, are you suggesting that it's better to live in Florida by the beach? Or I'm not quite sure if you're being sarcastic. All right. So John Huck says for $8,000, you can buy a townhouse in Los Angeles. At least you could in 2018. I don't know what you mean, because you ain't getting no townhouse in Los Angeles for $8,000, maybe $8,000 a month in a mortgage payment on a townhouse. Not really sure what you mean by that one. Homeownership, Heather Carew says homeowners insurance went up as well. Margaret Latham says we don't have state tax, but there's no cap on the rent. Margaret, are you in Nevada? I forgot. I'm talking to a lot of people in the chat right now, doing my best. It's just one of me. I'm trying to keep up with all the names and where you guys live. So let's see. What did Bruce say? So John Huck said, yeah, Bruce, I'm in that now and it's killing my savings. Rio, not even a shed in LA. I don't know. Yeah, you ain't getting nothing in LA for $8,000 unless it's per month. Jacqueline Beal says we should all move to another country. Whoa. Has anyone thought about moving to another country? That's wild. I mean, like, I know it's getting rough here, but is it better in other countries? Anyway, if you guys are getting value out of this video, do me a favor, show me some love in the like button, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel. And unfortunately, I have to run, but I want to get some more content out for you guys later today. Drop me a like, please. I really appreciate that. And let me know what topics you want me to cover in the future. I want to make sure I can best serve you guys with the information and content that you enjoy hearing about. Let me just check out a couple more comments before I bounce. Trevor O'Connor just hit me with a super chat. Thank you so much. Rent rose $160 a month. Rent is up $1,370. Year one was $980. Wow. Hold on a second. I got to do the math. Hold on. So Trevor O'Connor says rent year one was $980. Rent went up $160 per month, but the rent is now up to $1,370. That's a significant increase. That's like a 50% increase over, I'm assuming, probably a 2 to 3 year time frame. Lynn Richardson says, buy land, start your own country. Amanda Smith says BlackRock content would be interesting. Okay. See what's going on with BlackRock and their investments and how it could impact us. Let's see. Andrea Henderson says some of my friends are speaking of moving to Ghana. Wow. Okay. Nikki Shoso. I will get wait. I will get $23. Woohoo. Bruce Davis says, Ron, I'll move to Philippines or Vietnam. I wonder how many people will move to Bali. I know a lot of people used to use Bali as a vacation destination. I could see how their cost of living would be significantly reduced, and you get so much more over there. But I don't know what it would be like living day to day in Bali or the Philippines or Ghana. And Andrea Henderson said you get dual citizenship in Ghana. It is said. Interesting. That could be very, very valuable to have dual citizenship. Never really thought about that one too much. Peggy J, thanks, Ron. Really appreciate you. I appreciate you too, Peggy J. I see you. Let's see. Catalia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Ron, my friend, is paying $2,500 a month for a one bedroom with a car note of $321 monthly and Ubers to keep up with bills. New York is crazy expensive. Man, I had surgery. I'm still swollen, believe it or not. It's unbelievable. It's been like 4 months since I had surgery. So I was up in New York for surgery, and we were in New York for like a week. And New York is unbelievably expensive. It is unbelievably expensive. We had this tiny hotel room. It was like the cheapest, safest thing that we could find in New York while we were up there. And I swear I should have had a tape measure so I can do the square footage of the room, because they didn't have it listed on Expedia, but the room couldn't have been more than 400 square feet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 350. But, you know, the amount that they were charging was just unreal. We were staying in Manhattan at the time. Anyway, I'm not trying to bore you guys with the details, but New York is ridiculously expensive. But I will say that we spent a lot less money on transportation using the subway. You know, was it the Metro? We got the Metro card or whatever instead of doing the taxi cabs. Because actually the taxi cabs are so much more expensive than the Uber and the Lyft options. But anyway. What did she say? Andrea Henderson says my house cost $42,500 in 1985. House across the street renovated and sold for $426,000 earlier this year. So, all right, I want to leave you guys with this. We were talking about, okay, are you better off renting or buying, right? Well, if you buy, you know your mortgage payment's not going to change from a mortgage payment standpoint, from a principal and interest perspective, if you have a fixed rate mortgage, right? The variable that does change or can change is your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. And of course, if you have an HOA, right? So those are three variables that can change. And if your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes are tied to your mortgage payment, well, obviously your mortgage payment will inevitably go up, assuming the asset continues to appreciate in value, right? So if you buy a house, you're still not really done paying for expenses. Like the expenses keep going up. The expenses keep coming even if you've paid the house off, even if you pay cash. Gene Swift, really enjoy your channel, Mr. Yates. I appreciate you too. I appreciate that. So if you buy a house, even if it's paid off, you're still going to have monthly expenses to some extent. Property taxes and insurance are not going to go away. Now, of course, if you pay your house off, you don't have to insure your house. But think about it. Do you really want to take the risk on of a natural disaster, a fire, burning down your house, or a flood, or anything damaging your house? Imagine you pay off a $500,000 house and you decide, hey, I don't want to pay insurance. I want to save $200 a month. But then something happens, like God forbid. Do you really want to take that risk on? I wouldn't. So theoretically, you're going to have property taxes and homeowners insurance to protect your asset forever. So those won't change. So technically, your mortgage payment will continue to increase over time, even if you have a fixed rate mortgage, and even worse if you have an adjustable rate mortgage. Because if you had an adjustable rate mortgage, you might even be paying 7-8% interest right now. But that's another story for another day. So in comparison, are you better off buying a house or renting? Well, think about it. If you rent a house, the landlord, or and most landlords are just regular people like me and you. They happen to have another house that maybe they used to live in, and they're now renting it out. So they're usually regular people like me and you. Now, of course, it could be owned by a hedge fund or some other investment management firm like a BlackRock, like a Vanguard, but usually they own larger types of properties, if any, right? But here's the thing, they're going to have their own expenses and they're not going to just pay those expenses for us. So if you rent and the landlord's property taxes go up and the landlord's or the investor's insurance cost on that property goes up, well, what do you think is going to happen to the rent payment? Well, the rent payment is going to go up to reflect that. And so with that being said, are you better off buying or renting? I would say if I can afford to buy, I would rather buy, because no matter what, the cost is going to be higher in the future than it is today. So at least I would like to have the asset that I own appreciate in value, in addition to the fact that my expenses are going up, versus simply having expenses increasing over time and having no asset to show for it. Because at the end of the day, I forget who it was, but there was someone in the comments that had mentioned that their property was $42,500 back in 1985. And the house across the street from her sold for $450,000 or something like that. So from 1985 to today, that's like 30 years, or that's like almost 40 years. So over the course of 40 years, the property went up in value by $400,000. I would much rather own the property versus paying 40 years of rent. And then when you go to move, you have nothing to sell and nothing to show for it. So for me, as bad as the situation might sound, I think almost in every situation, if I can afford to buy it, I would rather buy it, at least from a long-term perspective. Purchasing land is a good idea. I saw somebody say purchase land. Catalia, she said purchase land. So I would say if you're going to look at purchasing land, why are you buying the land? And I'm not trying to call you out like you asked a silly question. I think it's a smart question or a smart suggestion to purchase land. But I would certainly say if you're going to buy land, ask yourself why you're buying it. Because I know a lot of people who I've talked to over the years who said, well, I bought land and they're actually complaining about the fact that they bought land. All I do is pay the property taxes that are due every year, because a lot of people don't realize, well, you buy land, cool, you bought it. Maybe you pay cash for the land, but what are you doing with it? Because if you're just sitting there, if you're not growing crops on the land, if you're not utilizing the land in some way where it's paying you passively, passive income or something like that, then you're really just kind of incurring an expense, unless you know for a fact that the land that you're buying, you're going to use it to build something on it that will either save you money or make you money. It could save you money if you grow crops on your land. It could make you money if you grow enough crops to sell. It could make you money if you bought land, but you leased it to a farmer who is now paying you a monthly payment on that land, who will then use it to develop the land, grow crops on it, and then they'll sell the proceeds off of it. Or you happen to buy land in an area where the value is going to go up because there's a lot of development happening, or you can look at the county records and see what types of developments are coming down the pipeline in the future. So if you buy land today, knowing that a lot of projects are going to come that way and future developers are going to need to buy that land because they need to build, okay, you could buy today, hold, and then that investment could be worth significantly more in the future. Assuming that these projects come down the pipeline, developers want to build on that land and they end up wanting to offer you, send you offers to buy it from you. So those are a few ways you could look at it. But if you simply buy land in a bad area that you're not going to use, you're actually kind of setting yourself up to just have a bill, to have an expense. Because imagine you buy land, you don't use it to grow crops, you don't use it to build a house. There's no development or future development scheduled or planned. Meanwhile, you own this land, you buy it for 50 grand, and let's say you hold it for 10 grand, and there's like no development over that 10-year period. You paid property taxes during that whole time. So you paid 50 grand for the land. You might have paid $1,000 a year for property taxes or whatever it happens to be. I don't know. How did you benefit from doing that? So these are just some things I'm thinking about out loud that anyone who's looking at buying land should also be thinking about before making that type of investment. Anyway, I enjoyed the conversation. I really appreciate hanging out with you guys. I'm gonna try to do this more often. Drop me some likes, guys. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Be safe.